Year after year, we often hear that the world has produced more billionaires than ever before, and that's certainly the case for last year. According to Forbes, the world held 2,095 people within the uber-rich category altogether in 2020. But which nations house the most out of them all? Well, that's what we're going to explore today. We'll see what sort of increase these select billionaire-rich nations had in their ranks and how much money the wealthy individuals collectively hold. We'll also explore some of these countries' richest and most famous billionaires and explore how they've made their vast fortunes. So let's get started. Kicking off our video is the Eastern European nation, Russia. In 2010, Russia had 61 billionaires. Then by 2020, that number jumped by 38 to 99. Those 99 people are sitting on a collective net worth accounting to $385 billion. This figure is actually a drop from the previous year by $35 billion. Spread across the whole country, the average monthly net salary after tax is pretty low in Russia. According to Numbero, Russian people only bring in about $456, one of the lowest in Europe, while the highest in the world is Switzerland with nearly $6,100. The richest person in Russia at the time of writing this, Alexei Mardashov. Before his vast wealth, Mardashov was working as the finance director at a steel mill. The owners asked him to purchase shares to keep the company from being operated by an outsider. So he created investment funds in order to purchase employee shares for himself. After that, Mardashov helped to build the mining and steel company Servistol. For 19 years, he operated as CEO. But by 2015, Mardashov stepped down and instead became chairman. Today, he has a net worth of $29.3 billion. Yet Vladimir Putin is nipping at his heels with a net worth of $27.2 billion. While not as worthy as Mardashov, one of Russia's famous billionaires is Roman Abramovich. The Russian and Israeli billionaire originally made his fortune from the steel industry. He then grew to fame once he purchased Chelsea Football Club in the English Premier League. He reportedly paid £140 million or $194 million back in 2003. From then until 2019, Abramovich has pumped around £1.13 billion or $1.56 billion into the club. This has been spent on high-profile player transfers and wages, facility upgrades, and more. The purchase soon had a good effect on the club as they began collecting titles in England and Europe. Currently, Abramovich has a net worth of $14.6 billion. India has more than doubled their number of billionaires since 2010. Back then, they had collected 49 of the ultra-rich. By 2020, they had 102, an increase of 53 billionaires. However, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Over the decade, the number has increased and decreased in intervals. Today, the number of billionaires in the Asian country has 313 billion between them, which is 93 billion less than what they had the year before. While the rich are doing well in the country, the inequality between them and the average citizens increased. In 2017, Oxfam examined the figures across the globe. In India, the richest 1% owned 58% of the country's wealth the year prior, higher than the average globally of 50%. In the following year, that figure increased to 73%. The current title holder of India's richest person belongs to Mukesh Ambani, and he probably won't be losing that achievement anytime soon. In fact, with his net worth of $84.5 billion, it would take the combined net worths of India's second, third, and fourth richest to just about beat Ambani's. Ambani made his fortune due to running the Fortune Global 500 company Reliance Industries. This company has a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, but primarily they've made their cash from energy, petrochemicals, and telecommunication, the latter of which has heavily relied on the 4G phone service Jio. In the past year, a third of Jio was sold to investors that generated more than $20 billion for Ambani. The person in second place is Gautam Adani. Currently, he's working with a net worth of $38 billion. Originally, he started his career as a diamond broker, but he soon began to import industrial material. Then in 1988, he founded the conglomerate company Adani Group, which brought in a revenue of $15 billion in 2020. He later purchased Abbott Point, a coal mining terminal in Australia that's received some negative publicity recently. Last year, the coal terminal received a bill of 106.8 million Australian dollars, or 82 million American dollars in damages. Now we have the nation with the most billionaires in Europe, Germany. At the start of 2010, the country contained 52 billionaires. By 2020, that number increased by 55 to 107 altogether. However, this is actually a decrease from the previous year. During 2019, Germany had 114 billionaires. The total net worth of the current crop of Germany's elite amounts to 447 billion, a decrease of 54 billion from 2019. These figures do relate to the rise in wealth across Germany through the past decade. During 2019, the Deutsche Bundesbank released the results of their study on household wealth in Germany. They found that between 2014 to 2017, the average net wealth of people increased by 18,300 euros. That's nearly $22,000. The richest person in Germany is actually held by two people, Beate Heister and her brother Karl Albrecht Jr. They are the children of Karl Albrecht, who, along with his brother Theo, founded the discount supermarket chain Aldi. After returning from World War II, the future reclusive billionaires Theo and Karl found their mother's corner shop still standing, so they took over and began to build their empire. However, by the 1960s, the two fell out. Theo took control of the stores in northern Germany and mainland Europe, which became Aldi Nord, while Karl had the stores in southern Germany, as well as the rights for America, Australia, and Britain, which became Aldi Süd. Today, Albrecht Jr. and Heister now have a collective net worth of 39.3 billion. Another retail magnate and the second wealthiest person in Germany is Dieter Schwarz. He currently sits on a net worth of $37.3 billion, which is a lot of money. Originally working with his father at his discount store company Schwarz & Little, Dieter would take full control of the company after his father's passing in 1977 under the company Schwarz Group. From there, the Little franchise began to grow. He even created the hypermarket chain Kaufland. Schwarz is extremely protective of his privacy. Even today, there's only a handful of photographs of the businessman. In 2019, Forbes stated that Little has a worldwide sales amounting to $115 billion. China had the biggest jump in the number of billionaires from any country. In 2010, they had just 64 of the elite rich in their borders. Yet by 2020, that figure increased by 325. They now hold 389 billionaires. Don't you want to be friends with all of them? I don't know if that would help. Give it a shot. That's an increase of 508%. From all of this, the uber rich in the country have a collective net worth of 1.2, here we go, trillion dollars. Our first trillion on the list. On top of this, from the previous year 2019, this is the first country in the video that has increased their net worth. It increased by 220 billion, while for its millionaires from 2019 to 2020, the country added a further 1.3 million of those as well. The rise in the wealthy is likely down to the rise of income for the nation's citizens. In 2019, on average, they were bringing in around $14,400 per year, while in 2011, it was around $6,500. The current leader of the nation's richest is Zhang Shanshan. He primarily made his fortune in the soft drink industry by founding Nongfu Spring. As a result, he currently has a net worth of $68.9 billion. Back in January 2021, it was even higher. In just one day, Zhang added $5 billion to his net worth due to the rise in share prices of Nongfu Springs. At the time, this took his net worth to $92.1 billion, according to Forbes. Zhang was an elementary school dropout that worked in a number of industries before selling soft drinks. Then, in 1996, he founded Nongfu Springs, which primarily makes its income from bottled water. On top of this, Zhang later bought a 75% stake in Beijing Wantai Biological Pharmacy. While not at the top anymore, but still very famous, is Jack Ma. The founder of the e-commerce-focused company Alibaba Group operated as executive chairman until 2019. He decided to step down to focus on his philanthropic interests. In 2020, Alibaba brought in a revenue of $72 billion. Prior to becoming rich, Ma worked as an English teacher in Hangzhou before finding interest in the internet boom. Currently, Ma sits on a net worth of $48.4 billion. Beyond his business acclaim, Ma would regularly perform songs at the annual Alibaba conference when he was still heading the company. Finally, we have the United States of America, the current champions. Back during 2010, the U.S. had 404 billionaires within their ranks. By 2020, that figure jumped by 210 to 614 altogether, the highest amount from all the nations in the world. In fact, the combined number of billionaires in Russia, India, Germany, and China just about beat the U.S. with 697. Out of all of America's 614 billionaires, they have a collective net worth of $2.9 trillion, over double China's. However, this amount is a decrease from their 2019 net worth of $164 billion. On top of the billionaires, the U.S. also added a boatload of millionaires. From 2019 to 2020, the nation's ranks increased by nearly 2.3 million. The current top dog of the wealthy is Jeff Bezos. Big surprise. At this moment, he has a net worth of $176.6 billion. We know that'll change. The Amazon founder originally created the company in 1994, famously from his Seattle garage. You've heard the story before, blah, blah, blah. By the end of the decade, he was a billionaire. During March to April 2020, Amazon stated they hired an extra 175,000 to cope with the demand of their services during the global events. Throughout 2020, the online shop brought in a total revenue of $386 billion. On top of Amazon, Bezos owns the newspaper The Washington Post. He purchased the company for $250 million. In 2000, he set up the aerospace manufacturer Blue Origin. During 2014, Bezos invested $500 million of his own cash into the company. The person that's been battling it out with Bezos for being the richest during 2020 was Elon Musk. Currently, Musk has a net worth of $150.8 billion to enjoy. Originally born in South Africa, Musk became a U.S. citizen in 2002. His first business success was Zip2. The company was later sold to Compaq for $307 million. After that, Musk had other successes with PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX, the latter of which is currently valued at $74 billion. Final fact finish, the country that lost the most amount of millionaires was Brazil. From 2019 to today, the South American country lost 81,000 rich folk, a drop of 22%. South Africa is just behind with a fall of 19%. The richest Brazilian national is currently the brewery investor Jorge Paulo Lemann with a net worth of $17 billion. Still not too bad. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Sir Ahab 08